75% of Gen Z young adults would leave their job without thinking twice if it wasn't aligned with their values. Hello. We're witnessing a silent revolution in the workplace. While companies continue offering the same benefits package from the 90s, an entire generation is redefining what professional success means. Are you an employer who doesn't understand why your retention rate has plummeted? Or perhaps you're a young professional tired of hearing that you lack commitment when you're simply looking for something different? In this video, I'll show you how companies like Patagonia and Nubank are thriving by adapting to this new mindset, and how both employers and young professionals can navigate this new landscape. Get ready to understand what truly motivates Gen Z at work. And believe me, it's not just ping pong tables in the office or beer on Fridays. Stay until the end to discover the one strategy that's making all the difference. To understand this silent revolution, we first need to know who Gen Z really is in the workplace. We're talking about those born between 1997 and 2012, the first truly digital generation from birth. Unlike all previous generations, they've never known a world without smartphones, social media, and instant information. They grew up during multiple economic crises, witnessed globalized social movements like never before, and many started their professional lives during a global pandemic. These factors have shaped a unique worldview and, consequently, a completely different relationship with work. It's interesting to quickly compare generations in the job market. Baby boomers valued institutional loyalty, followed linear careers in a single company, and saw stability as their top priority. Generation X began seeking more balance between personal life and work, developed a certain skepticism toward institutions, but still maintained a relatively traditional view of careers. Millennials brought the search for purpose, valued experiences over material possessions, and began questioning rigid hierarchical structures. But Gen Z? They're completely rewriting the rules. The data doesn't lie. A recent survey showed that 73% of young Gen Zers prefer jobs with schedule flexibility over positions with higher salaries but fixed hours. An impressive 83% consider a company's alignment with social and environmental causes before even considering a job offer. For 67% of them, the potential for professional development and constant learning outweighs stability as a deciding factor. And perhaps most revealing, 91% consider mental health policies to be just as important as compensation. The fundamental insight here is that Gen Z isn't rejecting work as many suggest. They're rejecting a traditional work model that doesn't offer purpose, flexibility, and personal growth. It's not laziness. It's a conscious redefinition of priorities. This new set of values has inevitably created a clash of realities in corporate environments. I'll share a real case I followed closely. Mariana, 24, was hired as a marketing analyst at a traditional financial sector company. With excellent training and mastery of digital tools, she impressed in the first few months. However, she began questioning meetings that could be resolved by email, rigid schedules when her deliverables were on track, and the lack of transparency in company decisions. Her manager, Roberto, 52, interpreted these questions as lack of commitment and inappropriate attitude. The result? After just 9 months, Mariana resigned to work at a smaller startup, with fewer formal benefits, but with a more flexible and transparent environment. This story perfectly illustrates the mismatch. In critical areas, for Roberto, commitment meant being physically present in the office for long hours. For Mariana, it meant delivering exceptional results, regardless of where or when she worked. Roberto expected respect based on his hierarchical position. Mariana respected competence and leadership demonstrated through actions. For Roberto, work was primarily a means of livelihood. For Mariana, an extension of her identity and personal values. The consequences of this clash are significant. For companies, the average cost of replacing an employee is estimated at 33% of the annual salary. An alarming figure considering that the average tenure of Gen Z is only 2.3 years in the same job. There are also enormous productivity losses associated with disengagement, estimated at 20–30% of productive potential, not to mention the negative impact on organizational climate. For young professionals, the consequences are also serious. Studies indicate that 48% of Gen Z professionals report burnout symptoms in their first years of their careers. Many face anxiety related to constant job changes, so-called job hopping, and suffer from negative perceptions from more traditional employers, which can harm their long-term careers. Additionally, the difficulty in building lasting professional relationships can limit their networking and future opportunities. Here's the truth many don't want to admit. We're not dealing with a less committed generation, but with a generation that defines commitment differently. Less by the number of hours worked and more by the impact generated and alignment with values. When we understand this, we can start building bridges instead of reinforcing walls. Fortunately, some companies have already understood this new dynamic and are reaping extraordinary results. Let's analyze 3 concrete cases that demonstrate how genuine adaptations, not just cosmetic ones, are transforming organizations. Nubank, a Brazilian fintech, implemented a complete overhaul of the feedback and performance evaluation process, replacing annual reviews with ongoing conversations based on clear and measurable objectives. They also introduced the concept of unstructured time. 20% of working hours can be dedicated to personal projects related to the company without direct supervision. Perhaps most impactful, they adopt a radical transparency policy where strategic decisions are shared in real time with all employees, and there is internal salary transparency. The results? A 40% reduction in turnover in just 18 months and a 67% increase in spontaneous applications, with a large portion of candidates citing organizational culture as the main attraction. Patagonia, a global sporting goods company, goes even further. They integrated environmental activism into all job descriptions, allocating paid work time for local environmental causes. They implemented the iconic "work when the waves aren't" good policy for surfing employees, a radical demonstration of trust and appreciation for personal life. They also maintain an exchange program between employees and partner NGOs, allowing collaborators to temporarily work on environmental projects while maintaining their salary. The result? 93% employee satisfaction, 3 times the industry average, and social media engagement far superior to competitors, strengthening the brand for both consumers and talent. But you might think, these are large companies with many resources. That's why the third example is important. Latam, a Brazilian education startup with just 35 employees and limited resources. They implemented collaborative decision models where any employee can propose and lead strategic projects. They adopted a flexible calendar with only 15 hours of synchronized weekly work, meetings, and collaborations. The rest is self-managed by employees. Each collaborator receives a personal professional development budget that they can use as they prefer, without approvals. In 2 years, they grew 200% while maintaining a lean team, and most impressively, 0 voluntary resignations since implementing this model. What do these very different companies have in common? First, they offer genuine flexibility that goes beyond physical location, encompassing when and how work is performed. Second, they integrate social purpose as a central part of the business, not just as parallel social responsibility initiatives. Third, they demonstrate trust through concrete actions, not just in discourse. Fourth, they personalize professional development based on individual interests. And finally, they directly involve employees in the evolution of organizational policies. The crucial insight here is that companies that truly thrive with Gen Z haven't just adapted specific policies, but have fundamentally transformed their organizational cultures to value impact over presence, results over processes, and authenticity over formality. This is a profound change that requires genuine leadership commitment. Now, let's move to the practical guide: how to implement these ideas in the real world, both for employers and young professionals. For employers, the first strategy is to completely reimagine recruitment. Replace generic questions about experience with competency-based challenges that demonstrate real skills. For example, instead of asking, "What's your experience with digital marketing?" present a real company problem and ask for a preliminary solution. Involve diverse teams in the selection process, mandatorily including Gen Z members, even in junior positions. They will detect inconsistencies between the company's discourse and practice. Finally, clearly communicate the organization's purpose. and the specific impact of the position in the larger context, young Zs don't just want a description of responsibilities, but to understand how their work contributes to something meaningful. The second strategy is to revolutionize the work environment. Implement a results not hours model with clear performance metrics. This means abandoning time clock and presence control in favor of well-defined and measurable objectives. Create a reverse mentoring program where young talents guide senior leaders on topics such as technology, social trends, and new perspectives. This not only brings valuable insights, but signals that the company values the contribution of younger employees regardless of hierarchy. Establish continuous feedback channels with visible implementation. When a Z employee makes a suggestion, the response should be quick and the implementation, or reason for not implementing, should be transparent. The third strategy is to completely rethink career development. Design non-linear career paths that allow lateral and vertical movement within the organization. Offer rotations between departments to provide diversified experience, periods of 3 to 6 months in different areas. Institute a personal budget for self-directed learning, allowing each employee to choose how to invest in their own development without needing to justify how it directly applies to their current role. For young Gen Z professionals, I also have valuable recommendations. First, how to identify companies genuinely aligned with your values. Go beyond marketing and research the real culture. Analyze comments on platforms like Glassdoor, contact former employees via LinkedIn, and observe whether the company publicly demonstrates its values in difficult times, not just when it's convenient. In interviews, ask revealing questions such as, "Can you tell me about the last time a junior employee's idea changed something significant in the company?" Or, "How do you handle differences of opinion between leaders and teams?" Be alert to warning signs in selection processes. Vague answers about flexible hours, hesitation when you ask about transparency, or comments that idealize hard work without mentioning results or well-being. Also learn effective negotiation strategies. Prioritize flexibility, development, and purpose beyond salary. Quantify the value of these conditions for you. For example, how much is being able to work remotely twice a week worth to you in salary terms? Develop techniques to quantify your contributions beyond formal responsibilities. Keep a record of impacts, savings generated, or improvements implemented by your initiative. When in more traditional companies, learn to propose innovations strategically, present success cases from other companies, offer to lead a limited pilot project, and always demonstrate how the change can benefit measurable results. Finally, develop an authentic personal brand. Build genuine professional presence on social networks by sharing learnings and projects, not just achievements. Create side projects that demonstrate your skills and values, even if not directly related to your current job. Strategically participate in professional communities, genuinely contributing before seeking personal benefits. And here's the most effective strategy I promise to reveal. Success in the silent revolution doesn't come from isolated techniques, but from intentionally building a culture of continuous learning and adaptation, both in organizations and individual careers. The companies and professionals who thrive are those who treat change not as a threat, but as an opportunity for constant evolution. This continuous growth mindset, applied systematically, is what truly differentiates success stories. We are witnessing not just a generational change, but a profound redefinition of the meaning of work in society. Gen Z is provoking a transformation that, while challenging, has the potential to create more humane, productive work environments aligned with the challenges of the 21st century. The future belongs to those who can navigate this silent revolution with authenticity, adaptability, and purpose. Now I want to hear from you. If you're an employer, what was your biggest discovery about working with Gen Z? And if you're a young professional, which aspect of traditional work would you most like to see transformed? Leave it in the comments below, and don't forget to share this video with colleagues, managers, or young professionals who could benefit from these ideas. Together we can transform the future of work. See you in the next video.